Hey, this is Guido, another episode of Tactics Talk, driving my WZ111 here on Redshire. Gone over to the standard critical piece of real estate over on the east. Typically the heavies go over there and brawl. Once that's cleared out, usually the game is won, unless you get fast capped or they really invested heavily over here, but this is typically where the big brawl is. This one is titled Pushing Passives and How to Recognize an Active versus a Reactive Enemy Team. So we'll get going here. If I have a fast enough heavy tank, I like to get up to this point because you can typically get here first. And when they top the hill, if they're not paying attention, they can eat a shot and then you can get away. Could have side scraped there, would have been probably a better idea. And now we've got this IS sort of sitting there. WZ still there. Don't know if he's tracked or what he's doing. He seems to think his armor is good. This is a passive kind of team. Oh, here he comes. WZ is taking 2 hits, but we have these guys hanging out on the back side of that little dip right there. Our WZ has pushed up. He's fighting off 2 tanks, doing pretty good work over there. And this team, this enemy team, what they should be doing at this point is pushing up. This is a very passive team. None of them wants to take a hit. So they're just going to sit on the back side of this, show their turrets, but it's a very passive tactic. Going to miss right there. The T-28 has figured it out. One of their players has decided we need to get up here because this enemy team is owning these rocks and we are out in the open. Despite being hulled down, they're able to pick us apart because we can't punish them every time they come around the corner. They need to be up at the rock. So here comes the T-28. It's coming right at me, so I'll track him. Unknown if he's used his repair kit. Looks like he has, or he doesn't have one. I figured he might have, considering that he had already driven up to the rest of our tanks. I'll hit him. Somebody else will hit him. And he's dead. And still we've got only their Centurion, 1, up there in front. None of these guys has pushed up. You've got a 4503 in the back, the IS and the Tiger 1 trying to be hold down, and the Super up in that position right there, getting owned. So I'm going to push out, take a chance of getting hit. It's worth it to start taking out the Centurion. And once he's cleared, because none of those guys moved up to help out their buddies, we now own this rock area. In addition to that, we're going to be able to push up onto these tanks out in the open. And their formerly hold down advantage is going to become a disadvantage because we are now hold down versus them. Of course, we were a bit hold down to begin with. And so their very passive gameplay has put them in a pickle. And now we're pushing. We're pushing the passives. So you got to kind of pay attention to how these things pan out when you're fighting different teams. Take a look at how aggressive they are, whether they seem to want to fight for the critical terrain or whether they're happy just to sit back and try to get a couple shots in. And then you can then at that point make your decisions about how aggressive you want to be. I'll bounce a shot here. End up taking out this IS. Very passive team. And we end up pushing in there. This is going to be a win. I'll end up with a little over 4,000. I think I get one more hit as we go and chase down the rest of the tanks on the other side. As I mentioned before, this is the main terrain as far as being the most critical area of the map. This can be decisive over here. If you've got a large enough force and you can sweep all of our tanks off the ridge, then we have trouble getting back. But typically this is the main fight. They did send a T-34 over there. That was definitely to their disadvantage. Had that been over here, we would have had a much tougher time pushing them. But as it was, very passive team, trying to hide back here. Didn't have any kind of aggressive tendencies to get up there and try to make any maneuver. They essentially allowed us to do all the maneuvering around the rocks, which is usually going to end up in a win if you have any kind of competent team, at least on the flank kind of idea. We had a bunch of scouts and other smaller tier guys camping this hill. Don't camp this hill. It's relatively useless. A lot of people love to go there and tell themselves they're sniping. But if you're going to do anything useful on this map, get over here, potentially get over here into the castle. I don't do it very often. If you do snipe, only do it early game and then find something better to do. But there you go, an example of a passive team being pushed by a more aggressive, active team.